Thank you all for joining today. Thank you for being here in this class and in this other dimensions of experience class. Thank you so much for taking time to focus on something else probably that you were doing just a minute ago. I'm really happy that you're here because tonight or today or this morning we come together just to remember our true identity, to enter into a present moment together, to see what is there for us, to receive the gift that is given in that moment. And so in order to enter in there, we just have to start to relax, to breathe maybe, to turn everything off in our minds. Like, okay, I don't have to think about yesterday. I don't have to hold on to something that's happening tomorrow. I need none of that. So this is your free time. It is your time to deeply relax into yourself, to go within, to seek for the kingdom, to relax right into it. So like we all do now. So please join us in that. Please join us in the meditation. This is an actual meditation, in fact. So yeah, here you go. So the couple of things that might come to you at this time is that you actually become really aware of where you sit or where you breathe or how your body is feeling, and that's great. That is fine. And so another thing that can happen is that you feel like, oh my God, my mind is racing. I'm thinking about too many things right now. I have trouble focusing. So that's all right. You just let that occur too for a moment. Like this is not it's not a competition of who meditates the best, none of that. This is just relaxation, to come in touch with what is really there. And you do that exactly in your way, in terms of you allow everything to occur that is occurring to you right now. Whatever you feel, whatever you're thinking, it is okay that it is there. You're not going to engage in it, but it's okay that it's there. And breathing is really important. Maybe moving in your chair a little. You can see I'm not sitting still at all. I'm always moving around, and it really does not matter. So it's like you have to find your rhythm in that, to feel what really feels good to you, because hey, it's all about you. It is your conscious experience of everything that is. It has to do with you. That is so great to discover, and that's where I love to refer back to. It's not depending on anything outside yourself. So these ingredients that I'm just sharing with you already, we will use that in tonight's teaching, or in tonight's moment together. Because teaching sounds like I'm teaching you something that you don't know, and that's absolutely not the case. I know exactly that you know what I'm talking about. So that is what I'm referring to. It's just a matter of remembering right now all that is given. Like we all share the same knowledge in that sense. So it's open to be remembered. And that is what we do here. And it's not as much a doing as an undoing. Like you have to relax. You have to let go of things. You have to just for a moment relax your attention and allow this change in yourself to occur. There you go. Now we enter into a deeper part of your consciousness. You can feel that it shifts. It is not static. It's like, yeah, okay. Now I'm getting I'm getting somewhere, even though it is not that we have to achieve a goal here. Absolutely not. So I'm really happy that you joined in this, because hey, where we can remember this together is the place where you are alive, the actual only real place in you that is here right now. There's nothing else going on. So just a couple of days ago, I read this in the little audio book, The Art of Meditation. I read this part, and I will read that as an introduction or as an invocation, or however you want to call it, to this meditation. And Joel Goldsmith says it this way: the only moment I can know is this moment. A minute ago has no existence. A minute from now will have no existence. To me, the past, the future, and the present is right now. It is now in which I'm living. It is now that I have always lived. And it is now that I shall always live. It is purposeless and pointless for me to look forward to a life 100 or 200 years from now. The only time I can live is right now. And now, in this moment, God, the one life, is expressing itself. I do not express life. Life expresses itself as my infinite, individual, indestructible being. So that is happening right now. The infinite, invisible, indestructible is expressing itself, bringing itself into being. And that's what you are, and that is what I am. So this is the only time that exists. See, I can say that as a concept, but in order to have that as a real experience, you can only enter into that present moment with empty hands. As I always say, it's like, okay, put everything on the shelf. You don't need your backpack of ideas. You don't need this, you don't need that. Like, there's a lot that you don't need to do to enter into the kingdom of heaven, because that is basically what we're talking about. You are entering into the kingdom of heaven. Yeah, that's better. Relax even more. It's the most natural place to enter into. Oh, I don't have to carry that around with me. No, you don't. No, you don't. Oh, I'm actually starting to feel gratitude. I feel that I'm starting to come in some form of an expression of grace. It's like, oh, thank you, God. Thank you so much for this moment in which we are united and joined as one, like we come into a conscious remembrance of this, that we're actually one. There's no time, because the past is gone, the future is not there. It is right here, right now. The only thing that is taking place. So, and today we're going to look at certain things. Like everything has to do with consciousness. So this is where we're going to focus on also. It's like I said in the beginning, there's nothing outside your consciousness. And Joel describes this really beautiful in There is Nothing Outside Your Consciousness, in one of his talks like that. So I'm going to use that in the second part of this teaching. But the first part is what I started doing in this series of classes, to enter into a whole different dimension of experience. And now I take another scientific part, just as an illustration of how the world thinks, and maybe you recognize something of your own thinking in it. And also, with the words of Joel next to it, it is like, it's unbelievable how much research we do in the universities nowadays, and how easily it can be referred to, like how easily Joel can help you literally to see what consciousness is, how you can experience your oneness, your consciousness. And so bear with me in this. I'm going to read some of the research that's being done, And it's like, you have to see it this way. In my journey, in my development, in my spiritual journey, I come to all kinds of places. So I was in a scientific area. I was in a scientific world, so to speak. And for a moment, I was completely in there, and I discovered certain things and learned to think in a certain way. I let that go afterwards, and I completely let it go. So 20 years later, I started to read articles again, and they actually were interesting to me to read. I don't even know why. But now when I bring them in, see, you always come back to the fundamental questions, like what is consciousness? One of the questions we're going to deal with today is the universe conscious? Like, hello? Is the universe conscious? How am I going to discover if it isn't my own experience? If I try to look for it in a universe or make models or mathematical procedures to discover if the universe is alive, if the universe has a consciousness of its own. And it's just interesting to see how, you'll see at the end, it talks about an explanatory gap that is taking place. And I think that's a beautiful description, like you can't even put the two together. But hey, let's get started with this. So just one more thing is that it is not a judgment about anything that's occurring in the scientific world. It's like, no, when I came in touch with this article, it was more that I connected with the scientist. And he is full of good intentions to make his research really well and try to be as open as possible. Like he wanted to bring this all to a higher place. And so I join him in the passion for that, even though I come from a different place, so to speak. But see, that's what I wanted to say. It's not a judgment about anything. It is just like looking at it and seeing what is actually occurring nowadays in the research of what is consciousness. Is the universe conscious? It's an interesting idea. So here we go. So this is about the mathematician, Dr. Johannes Kleiner, and he's from a Munich Center of Mathematical Philosophy. And he works on the question, is the universe conscious? So, and I got this article from Grin magazine. And Grin magazine is an academy of enlightened enterprise, gurus, entrepreneurs, philosophers, monks, and thinkers. So I'm not sponsored by it in any way. You will understand that. So here's one question that he gets thrown at him, and that is this. What do you mean when you say that the universe might be conscious, or the universe might experience consciousness? In order to explain this, I need to take a bit of a swing. My research is concerned with what is called models of consciousness. A model of consciousness is a scientific theory that attempts to explain how conscious experience and the physical domain, brain states, etc., are connected. In the previous 30 years, many ideas have been put forward for how models of consciousness could be constructed. We're investigating, so I skip ahead. We're investigating, that is, what advantage mathematical tools have in the scientific study of consciousness compared to non-mathematical methodologies, and which implications, characteristic features of consciousness, such as its private and subjective nature, have for scientific models of consciousness. And again, I skip ahead. Could you explain the integrated information theory in a manner that most people would understand? Well, let me try, he says. Integrated information theory is a mathematical model of consciousness. So as explained above, it takes as input some mathematical descriptions of a physical system and gives output both the content and intensity of the system's conscious experience described in mathematical terms. In mathematical terminology, this is called mapping from physical systems. On the one hand, to spaces of conscious experience on the other. The crucial ingredient in integrated information theory is to define this mapping in a particular way. Think about a computer. It receives information from the telephone cable, transforms this information suitably, and then displays this information to you in the web browser. So this is about information that can be transformed. If we comprehensively conclude that the universe and indeed inanimate things can experience consciousness, how does this dramatically change our perception of the universe and indeed our own selves? Most scientists, including me, sometimes think that all that exists are physical things, atoms, molecules, and the like, and that these physical things make up the whole universe and everything that we can see and interact with. What we call consciousness is completely determined by these physical things. Consciousness does not make a difference to how the universe ticks. This is one view. If there were any conclusive evidence that consciousness played a genuine causal role in the universe, that it is something that is in the world next to physical quantities, that would have enormous consequences for the scientific view of the world. Evidence of this sort might lead to scientific revolution no less extreme than the ones initiated by Copernicus and Galilei. Okay, so stay with me. Stay with me. So it is interesting, isn't it? It is interesting to see how people are actually trying to discover what if there can be something outside themselves conscious of something. Very interesting. My most favorite conception of the hard problem is in terms of what is often called an explanatory gap. There it is. Here, the idea is that the conscious experience might be a phenomenon that has certain properties that render it incompatible with each and every one of the types of explanation used in natural science. Okay, that's where we were waiting for. If that were the case, we wouldn't even know how to start explaining conscious experience scientifically. Great. There would be a gap between conscious experience and natural experience when it comes to scientific explanation. Hence, explanatory gap. This doesn't mean that we can't ever explain conscious experience, but it requires us to make changes to what we call a scientific explanation and might require us to develop completely new forms of explanation, or maybe even skip the whole explanation part. In a post-pandemic world, would it be correct to say that a deeper understanding of consciousness is not only important but urgent? If yes, why? Whoa, that is an interesting question. So here we go again. In a post-pandemic world, would it be correct to say that a deeper understanding of consciousness is not only important but urgent? If yes, why? And the man says, within science, I think there's no other problem which is as deep, as puzzling, and as mysterious as the problem of consciousness. And I think much can be gained if we make progress in uncovering this mystery. my hope is that eventually this might help us to create a better world. That is, by supporting the development of new cures for medical diseases associated with conscious perception. The road might be long, but I think it's worth taking it. See, I love that question. So a deeper understanding of consciousness would be a great idea. Okay, so I'm really happy that you joined me in this class. Otherwise, so we're on the edge of scientific research. We just skipped one step ahead again. You know, it's like, okay, so conscious experience of yourself, of the universe, you know, it can only start right here. It is not necessary to explain it, but there's every necessity to experience it. So, and that's exactly why we are here. That's exactly why we are here, you know, to come into a one conscious experience of who we are. Like if you are able to experience oneness like it is given to us in the infinite way, or in whatever path you're on, it's like, yes, this is the focus. It is, you become conscious one, like you know, you come into an experience that there's nothing outside your consciousness, that there's literally nothing else going on, that everything is included in that nothing can enter, you know, can be outside your consciousness. It first has to enter into your consciousness in order for it to exist. So now we have Joel writing Nothing Outside Your Consciousness. You know, he's not only writing, he was giving a talk. And I don't know when that talk was, I can check it out. That was in 1960. So that is 70 years ago. Pretty amazing. In 1960, he already gave the answer to the problem that the scientist is looking for. He calls it the problem of consciousness. You know, like you have to have a problem in order to have an investigation, of course. So what if you are going to accept this for yourself, as that there is nothing outside your consciousness? That literally everything is included into that. Even this scientist, even this lovely idea that he is doing some research and really wants to get to the edge of it and really wants to contribute to this, you know, to life. So I really like having these articles here, to use these articles in this class, because it always brings in so much happiness. You know, I'm getting really excited about the actual information that's literally coming to life in me, in my consciousness. You know, to see that, oh my God, I'm free of that. I am what I am. I can't believe it. You know, that is so lovely. So I'm going to use, I can't wait to read it either. So I'm going to use the Nothing Outside Your Consciousness part 3 of one of the classes that I posted, one of the talks of Joel that I posted in 2017 or something. But you can still find it, and I'll refer back to it on the website, just as well as this article. You can find it back on the website, iwihub.com. And so that makes it easier to read it again, because I can imagine that you don't follow this right away as the way that I read it. And so take your time to take a good look at it, because it's really cool. So there's nothing outside your consciousness. So Joel steps in this third part of his talk, and let me see, where is he? He's in Los Angeles. This is a closed class, and he says this: remember this, you cannot experience anything that does not enter your consciousness. You cannot experience anything that does not enter your consciousness. And you say, yes, of course. If it is not in my consciousness, it cannot happen, right? But anything can enter your consciousness unless you are standing there. Now, you remember I brought out at one of these classes, open or closed, that here's my body. That's all you see. You don't see me, you see my body. And there's another part of me you don't see, and that is my mind, because my mind is invisible. Now, behind my mind stands me, and my mind and my body. There's my mind, there's me, my mind, and my body. You better be sure. I have a mind, I have a body. And remember, I'm standing back here and addressing my mind, and it, in return, governs my body. But remember, my body can't catch cold. It has to enter through the mind, and that means I let it in. See how important I am in my life. I stand behind me. I stand behind my mind and my body. If I say to my hand up, it goes up. And if I say down, it goes down. If I say give, it gives. If I say withhold, it withholds. Because the hand has no intelligence. It can do nothing of itself, but it must respond to me, for I am its voice. And I, through the mind, impart my will to this hand. That's a very clear example. I love that. Here we go. Then, if I realize that I and my Father are one, all that my Father has is mine, here where I stand on holy ground, for right here I and the Father are one. Thou seest me, thou seest the Father that sent me, for I and the Father are one. All that the Father has is mine. The intelligence of the Father, the love of the Father, the life of the Father, the being of the Father, the Spirit of the Father, all of this is mine. I and the Father are one. The qualities of the Father and the quantities of the Father, all these are mine. Therefore, I am the fulfillment, the presentation of all that God is. And nothing from without can enter my consciousness that defileth or maketh a lie. Because I stand here in the realization of God as constituting my being. Now let the world's belief be what it may. Let universal belief be what it may. Let everyone think what they will. I and the Father are one, and nothing can enter my consciousness that defileth and maketh a lie. I love that. I love that. I love that. And here Joel continues. I'll just keep reading that just because it's so beautifully said. Do you see who determines your life? Do you see who determines the experiences of your life? Do you see who determines the experiences of your life? You do. You do. By consciously identifying yourself with God, you open yourself to all that God is. By recognizing the source of error, the nature of error as an imposed suggestion from without, and standing there and refuting it, you nothing guys it. Absolutely nothing guys these suggestions as they reach you. Okay, so I love that part. You know, this is like, okay, here Joel says it, he brings it like to the table. It is I, you know, he makes it so clear that I am literally the center of the universe. Like I'm the center of this, and that means like it is my conscious experience. There's nothing outside my conscious experiences of what is happening. So sometimes people ask me like, so about, I want to talk about different levels of consciousness. And that's always an interesting idea, of course, because you think like, well, there's a low and there's a high and there's a this and that. Like, but that's still like a dualistic way of looking at it. So I always bring it back to this. And that is like, no, there is just one level of consciousness. You know, that is all there is, and that is yours. It is your consciousness. That is the only consciousness that there is. So that brings it right back into your lab, because like we started this day too, we started this meditation too, with the idea that it has to come from within. It has to happen in you. It is your experience. There's literally nothing outside your consciousness. The words that I'm sharing with you, you asked me to tell you. It is literally like that. You know, it's like I'm able to share this with you because you invited me to say these words to you. Like there is nothing outside your consciousness. Absolutely nothing. So that is really great to become aware of, and makes everything also like your responsibility in that sense. There's just one source. Like all the ideas that you are encountering during the day, during your life, it all is based on the idea that there's it has to enter consciousness, your consciousness first, in order to exist, you know, for it to be there. So I love that. I love that. So how are you doing with that? How are you experiencing this? Are you able to let go of what time is and what happened yesterday? Are you able to let go of what you think your life was before this moment? Are you able to let go of all your plans for the future for just a moment, just to be completely present here with me? So yeah, see, it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing practice. It's just a matter of letting go all the time. You know, you don't need to hold ideas together to make some understanding to get some understanding out of it. No, that will be given in the right time too. It is a perfect plan that's unrolling itself. Like it is literally given to you and it's working perfectly. So in order for you to become aware of that, just get out of the way. That's a bit the exercise, you know. You get out of the way with your own ideas about who you think you are, what's supposed to happen, what you think is going on. You know, it's like your idea about yourself, and I speak from my own experience, it's like it always looks like a failure. It always looks like something went wrong, or that you got into something that you really didn't want to get into. But in the end, it was for your own good. It was a perfect setup for you to become aware, like, oh, wait a minute, there's nothing outside my consciousness. It's all inclusive. And it doesn't take away that I'm completely in communication with the whole universe, with every aspect of creation. So does this universe have consciousness? It's like, well, if it entered my mind, it does, you know, it is part of my consciousness. So I'm including myself completely in this, not only research, but also in this universe. And that's a pretty wide idea. That's a pretty expanded idea that you can hold about yourself. But you know it's true. Like I use this a lot in moments with others too, of moments with the ones that I meet. And that is this, like you cannot actually locate yourself at all. Joel says in this little talk that we used, or little part of the talk that we used, and that is this, like, you only see my body, but I'm mind, I'm soul, I'm spirit, I'm, you know, it's like I'm the invisible, I'm the infinite invisible. Like the direct communication with God is what I am. I'm in direct experience with every aspect of creation. And that is not a little thing. It is like all inclusive. It is without, you can't comprehend it. You can't put your mind around it. No, your mind is included in it. So I thank you for joining me in this expanded state that we enter into. This is your consciousness, and it's expanding in a rapid rate. You know, it's like, oh my God, can you imagine how you were thinking about yourself just 20 minutes ago? Like, that is already so long ago. So many things already have happened in which you actually can feel the expandedness of your mind, of your consciousness. So that's the great thing of always looking for the outer edges of your consciousness in whatever way. You know, like a scientific article can already help you to come in touch with the edges of your consciousness, and of maybe to realize that how happy you are with what you have found in this path that we're on. You know, so it's like everything is going to be used for your awakening. You don't have to sort it out. You don't have to exclude things or anything. No. So you'll see what it does with you. That's more likely. You will see how much excitement you get out of it, or how much gratitude you get out of it, just by coming in touch with it. So thank you for joining with me. And I hope to see you soon, maybe next week in the next class, or write me an email if you feel like it at iwihub@gmail.com. And I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.